So the architecture in Hungary is so beautiful, just because there's so much history there. I had a lot of fun just looking at the buildings sometimes, because it was just like, that's so pretty. And I had some opportunities to go with my companions to visit different castles or cathedrals. And it was just always so fun, just because I do enjoy learning about history. I do enjoy that feeling of like, there's just so much depth. There's just so much that you can learn there. So much, I don't know. It's just neat. And so the cities that I served in seven different cities on the course of my mission. And the bigger cities were the ones where you would find a lot more of that fantastic architecture. But then in the smaller cities, you'd find more of just this comfortable, homey lifestyle. I remember going to visit one family where they were pretty poor. They were out in a village, actually. So they have big cities, they have their smaller towns, but then they have villages, and it's just so fun to go to them. And yeah, this family, they wanted to cook a meal for us, and instead of just like, you know, here where you would just like either put it in the oven or cook on a stove or whatever, they actually went out in their yard and built a fire and had this big cauldron that they hooked up with like this stand and this chain, and it was just hanging over this fire, and it was just really neat. I was like, oh my goodness. So that's not something you would typically see. You would not see that in the big city, but in this small village, it was just so chill. It was so normal to do that. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna cook over this fire in this big cauldron thing, and it was fun. I was like, that's so cool. Yeah, the layouts of the cities, we usually lived in like the downtown, like the busy areas, because then it was a lot easier for us to access the resources we need. The public transportation was right there. It was easy to get our groceries. So our apartments, luckily, were really close to what we needed. And it was great because they would have the Belváros, or like the walking streets, and where a lot of the shops were. And it's like those cobblestone roads that you see in movies, and it was magical. It was just fun. I keep using the word fun, but really that's what it was. It was just so fun to be there and to be a part of the culture. And they would have some of the wood framed homes. They had a lot of 10 stories. That's what we called them, or 10 stories. They were the big gray, they were usually gray cement buildings from the communist era, where they had communism there. So that was something that you could see a lot of. So it was really, like I said, the country is beautiful, but you do see the marks of communism still today. And so there would just be streets, sometimes just big chunks of the city, of just these tall, gray, kind of depressing looking buildings. And sometimes they were colored, interesting colors, but yeah, you would see those a lot in the big cities. And there were places where you'd see a lot of graffiti. I'm sure a lot of it comes from that era. I'm sure people still do graffiti today, but and I like graffiti. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but I'd see some artistic walls and streets of things where I was like, that is so cool. But obviously it's not good to deface public property, I know. But it was just something neat to see. It's just, not neat, that's probably the wrong word. It was interesting. You could just feel in the air. You could still feel the weight that communism had on the country, on the Hungarian people. And so yeah, it was happy, it was fun, but you could feel that. You could feel that they had been through a lot. You could feel that the people were recovering from a really hard era. And you would get talking with some of the people about it. The older people definitely had a lot more to say about that time because they lived through it. Some people even saw when, like before communism was there, lived through everything, and it was just interesting to hear them compare how life was to how it is now. And a lot of the youth understand what happened as well. Back in, it must have been around the 1920s. It was around World War I, where Hungary, it actually was reduced in size. Today it's only 1/3 the size it used to be. Can't remember the exact name of the treaty, but Hungary had to sign a treaty, Tryon, or I don't remember. I'm going to butcher the name, so I'll just call it the treaty. They were basically forced to sign this treaty that made it so they divided up parts of Hungary to surrounding countries, like to Romania, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia. I think that's what it was called. But so now you look at the map of Hungary and it's a lot smaller. The boundaries of it are a lot smaller than what it used to be when it was a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And so, yeah, you hear people talk about that a lot. And so again, you can feel the way, you know that Hungary has been through a lot. They've been through a lot of hardships, a lot of hard experiences as a country, but they're so strong. They're strong people. And sometimes it was hard to get them to open up at first, because they would be skeptical because of the things they've been through, that sometimes they weren't as trusting to new things, that the older people would be like, oh, no, like, I don't want to talk about this, or they were a bit standoffish. But once you got to know them, or when you were able to get through, they are just some of the most loyal people, and you come to see how strong they really are, how they are just so, they know how to endure. They are an amazing people. So, yeah.